Actually, I've had several meetings today already, one of which is with a charity that's supporting disabled people into work and working with the DWP on the Disability Confident campaign in Wales, and they gave me a chilling figure. I don't know what the basis for it is, but that for 100 disabled people supported into work, 120 are leaving. So it's not only that we've got a worryingly low percentage of disabled people in employment, missing the huge assets that they have to offer the workplace, but according to those figures, more are actually leaving than joining the workforce. I don't know if that's down to retirement age, or I fear it may be down to other factors, some of which we heard alluded to a moment ago. So thanks very much to Rhiannon Disability Wales for inviting me to speak at this event. I was encouraged, we heard lots of comments about UK government. Actually, I was encouraged last week to read that the Prime Minister has written to every UK Cabinet Minister, and hopefully every new one after today's changes, asking them to review how their department can help lower barriers that disabled people face in their everyday lives. This letter stated many disabled people find it hard to access services that others take for granted, and it said that isn't just unfair, it's also a criminal waste of potential and shamefully and quite needlessly constrains the prosperity of our entire nation, in that case referring of course to the whole of the UK, not just the nation of Wales. Their findings are expected within weeks, so that a UK government green paper setting out a new UK government strategy for disabled people can be published by the summer. No doubt the cross-party group on disability will have a view on that and will wish to make submissions accordingly. The UK government has made it clear that it wants the UK to lead, or not to lead, a global race, to lead a global race to the top in rights and standards, not a competitive race to the bottom. And I can assure you that a lot of Conservative and Welsh Conservative politicians would not be happy if we saw the opposite happening. It is stated that there will be no change to rights for disabled people. The UK has historically led the way in this area and will continue to do so. I obtained that quote via the Welsh office last week. The United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Disabled Persons, adopted by the UN General Assembly on December the 9th, 1975, states that all disabled persons have the same rights as other persons and recognises the obstacles created by social institutions and society in general. Although non-binding, the declaration marked the beginning of a new approach to disability issues as human rights issues. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was adopted on December the 13th, 2006, and the UK government signed this legal treaty in 2009. And of course, that's independent of EU membership, and it sets out what rights disabled people should have alongside international benchmarks covering areas including health, education, employment, access to justice, personal security, independent living, and access to information. And I'll give credit here to Rhiannon Disability Wales, because it's a number of years since you launched the Independent Living Now Wales campaign, and I led an independent debate on that in the Assembly chamber, and initially, to my amazement, received a hostile response from members across the chamber who accused me of wanting to betray the most vulnerable people to the marketplace, when in fact the speech was entirely written with, I remember at the time, Disability Wales, MS Cymru and Mind Cymru, and it was all about the right to voice, choice, control and independence. Of course, we've moved on a lot now, and every politician of every party wants to be seen to champion the right to independent living. Not all of them actually fully grasp, I don't think, what that fully means yet. The UK Equality Act we heard referred to came into force 1st of October 2010, bringing together over 116 separate pieces of legislation into one single act. It provides the UK with a discrimination law which protects individuals from unfair treatment and promotes a more fair and equal society. Disability, as you know, is a protected characteristic under this Act, which applies to all public authorities, including local authorities, police officers and courts and tribunals, and to all other bodies, whether public or private, performing public functions. It states that service providers must think ahead and take steps to address barriers that impede disabled people. In doing this, it says it's a good idea to consider the range of disabilities that your actual or potential service users might have. You should not wait until a disabled person experiences difficulties using a service. Its duty to make reasonable adjustments for disabled people aims to make sure that disabled people can use an organisation's services as close as is reasonably possible to get to the standard usually offered to non-disabled people. Bit of a mouthful, but that's what the wording in the legislation says. Of course, Brexit doesn't directly change any of this, and organisations which fail to act accordingly are already acting unlawfully. Unfortunately, every day, including just before I came here today, I received more casework on behalf of or from disabled people, telling me that bodies have failed to comply with this. And it's a constant battle, not only to get people to acknowledge that the public sector equality duty exists and that the social services and wellbeing codes and regulations exist, that actually then commit themselves to delivering those and deliver them in practice by working to remove the barriers that people encounter and establish what their communication, social needs or physical needs might be. At a devolved level, and both the Social Services and Wellbeing Wales Act and Wellbeing of Future Generations Acts require public bodies to do things with people, not to or for them. And of course, Brexit doesn't change that either. Leaving the EU does not affect our rights on the European Convention on Human Rights, or the ECHR, as this comes from the Council of Europe, not the European Union. And of course, we remain a member of the Council of Europe. The UK government has said that the UK is committed to membership of the ECHR continuing, and that withdrawing from it would run counter to its vision of, quote, a global Britain. In fact, the ECHR, as some of you might know, was originally British in origin. It was advocated by Winston Churchill and drafted by a former UK Home Secretary, David Maxwell Fyfe. I'm pleased that Disability Wales has been awarded project funding to support disabled people and prepare them for the potential impacts which the UK's exit from the EU may have on their day-to-day lives, including in these engagement opportunities tailored around disabled people's needs, information and signposting in accessible formats, regional events aimed at local disability organisations across Wales, and the establishment of a virtual disability policy network. Of course, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating as we go forward, and I think all of us in Wales, and hopefully many of our party colleagues cross-party in Westminster, will be keeping close scrutiny as matters develop with future discussions between EU and UK on the future relationship to ensure that these issues are not secondary but at the core of future agreements. And of course, as chair of the cross-party group on disability, as well as autism and neurological conditions, I recognise above all the need to champion key pan-impairment disability equality issues, including, and this is quoting from the cross-party group on disability page, implementation of the social model of disability in practice and the right to independent living. Diolch yn fawr.